There's a reason you keep rehearsing an argument with someone who will never hear it, and it has almost nothing to do with them. You know the scene, the shower, the drive home, the 3 a.m. ceiling. And there you are again, delivering the perfect line to a person who isn't in the room. And point two, when we get there, is the one that will change how you see every silent argument you've ever had. Because the person you are really trying to convince was never them. Here is the first sign most people miss. In that imagined argument, you always win. That should tell you something. The real conversation never let you. You know the version of you that shows up in these fantasies. Calm, sharp, unshaken. You say what you didn't say. You win. Finally, in a courtroom, only you attend. Then nothing changes. The silence you actually gave them is still all they remember. And if this has happened to you, my friends, you are not overthinking. You have found a true Stoic philosophy, explained long before modern psychology named it. The enemy was never really them. Epictetus was born a slave in the Roman Empire, and somehow became one of the clearest minds Rome ever produced. He never wrote a word himself. His students did that for him. But the idea he taught, over and over, was this: some things are up to us, and some things are never up to us. Our judgments, our desires, our will, ours, everything else, other people's opinions, their memory of us, whether they ever understand what we meant, never was, never will be. Modern psychology has a name for what happens when you forget that difference. It calls it rumination. The mind replaying a scene it cannot rewrite. Here is what actually happens in your head during that imagined argument. Your brain does not fully know the difference between rehearsing a fight and living one. The heart rate rises. The jaw tightens. The old shame resurfaces, fresh as the day it happened. You relive the entire cost of the conflict, and you never once get its resolution. Remember point two. We are almost there. It is not about winning the argument. It is about refusing to accept that you never got the chance to try. 1. The unfinished courtroom. Every rehearsed argument is a courtroom that never adjourned. You are still building the case because no verdict was ever read. Epictetus would say the trial itself is the problem. You're litigating something that already ended, whether you accept the ending or not. And a case with no judge never closes. It just runs on a loop at your expense forever. 2. The witness who isn't there. And here it is. Point 2. The one that almost no one sees. Every imagined comeback is a plea for a witness who isn't there. You're not actually trying to defeat them. You're trying to get someone, anyone, to confirm that what happened to you actually happened. Not revenge. Recognition. And recognition you keep begging for in private will never arrive, because you're the only one in the room. 3. The agreement you never made. Your silence in the real moment felt, to you, like surrender. So some part of you keeps refuting it privately again and again. Psychologically, this is the mind trying to correct a record it believes is wrong. But silence was never agreement. It was restraint. And restraint is not the same as defeat. 4. The fight you live twice. Your body cannot fully tell the difference between an imagined confrontation and a real one. So you pay the full cost, the tension, the adrenaline, the exhaustion, for a fight that technically never happened. You suffer it once in memory, and once again in rehearsal. Twice the cost. 0 resolution. 5. What was never yours to hold. Epictetus called this the line between what is up to us and what is not. Their opinion of you, their memory of the moment, whether they ever admit they were wrong. None of that was ever yours to control. Not then, not now, not in 100 more rehearsals. You cannot win custody of someone else's mind. 6. The illusion of control. The rehearsal feels like preparation. It is not. It gives you the feeling of control over something that already ended without asking your permission. Not resolution. Repetition. And repetition dressed up as problem solving is still just a wound talking to itself. 7. The argument that actually ends it. This is the one that changes everything. You don't need them to hear it. You need to stop needing them to hear it. That single shift, not one more perfect sentence, is the only ending this argument was ever going to get. Not their apology, Your release. There's a version of this that plays out the same way for almost everyone. A conversation ends badly. A word goes unsaid. A silence gets mistaken by both people for something it wasn't. For months, the argument continues in the car, in the shower, in the half second before sleep. Always sharper, always more convincing, always unheard. And then, on some ordinary evening mid-rehearsal, a different thought interrupts the usual one. They were never going to hear this. Not one version of it. Not even the sharpest one. And that was the moment everything changed. Not because the anger disappeared, because the audience did. The argument stopped needing to be won, because it stopped needing anyone but its author. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here is what I call the silent verdict principles. 1. Name the court. Notice when you're rehearsing and call it what it is, an unfinished courtroom, not a plan. Naming it breaks its grip because the mind treats named things differently than automatic ones. The next time it starts, say to yourself, this is a courtroom again. 2. Return the verdict to no one. Stop waiting for their agreement to validate what you already know happened, not their confirmation. Your memory. Write down once exactly what occurred. Then let the writing be the closing statement. 3. Separate the ache from the argument. The hurt is real. The rehearsal is not the same thing as healing it. Not confrontation. Attention. Give the pain somewhere to go besides an imaginary courtroom. Name the actual feeling underneath the script, betrayal, humiliation, grief, and sit with that instead. 4. Hold the line Epictetus drew. Ask, every time, is this mind control, not explanation? Distance. From anything that was never yours to manage. The moment you notice you're managing their opinion, hand it back to them, not justification. Peace. Stop performing for a jury that already left the building. Your silence was never weakness. It was restraint that cost you something real. But there's one more thing. The lesson beneath all the other lessons. If you want to move beyond simply understanding this, if you want to actually live differently because of it, then here's what Epictetus considered the highest form of strength. He taught that no one can truly disturb you without your consent to be disturbed. Not because the world stops hurting you, because you stop handing it the gavel. The highest freedom is not winning every argument. It is no longer needing to. You are not obsessive for replaying that conversation. You are simply someone whose voice was never given the room it deserved, and your mind has been trying clumsily to give it one. You do not need one more perfect sentence. You do not need their understanding to make your pain legitimate. It already was. As Epictetus might have said, your mission is not to win a verdict from someone who already left the courtroom. Your mission is to become fully, unapologetically yourself. And that will always disturb those who never dared to try. Remember this, my friends. The argument was never about defeating them. It was about being seen by someone. And you are always allowed to be your own witness. The silent verdict principles are not a set of rules. They are a way of closing a courtroom that should have shut its doors months ago. Stop arguing for a verdict no one is left to give, because one day you will look back on this moment, and you will understand that the case closed the day you stop needing anyone else to read the verdict. And that is when everything changes. Of the 7 things we talked about today, one of them has probably already played out in your head this week. Tell me in the comments, which point was it, and whose voice do you keep arguing with? If you want more videos on human psychology, the philosophy of Epictetus, personal power, and the hidden dynamics that shape every relationship, subscribe to Ancient Soul Philosophy, because understanding the human soul means taking back control of your life.